It was about time. A Ferrari that dominates so decisively on one of the most challenging tracks in the 2024 Formula One World Championship is an amazing piece of news at the end of an equally amazing race for the Maranello team. Charles Leclerc won the United States Grand Prix with a brilliant move at the first corner when he surged past Max Verstappen and Lando Norris, who were tussling for the lead and found themselves outsmarted by Ferrari. Perhaps they thought during that initial lap that overtaking the Monegasque driver would be a matter of a few hundred meters. Instead, Charles Leclerc pulled away relentlessly, as Max Verstappen had done in the first part of the 2024 Formula One season, and as McLaren had after the summer break. With each attack attempt from Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc responded and gained a little ground. This went on for about 10 laps until the Dutchman realized there was nothing he could do and backed off, focusing only on keeping Lando Norris, his championship rival, behind him. So much so that even Carlos Sainz, by pitting early, overtook him without much trouble. At that point, it became clear to everyone that Ferrari was heading for a quick and triumphant stroll, and so it was. Was Austin a track for Ferrari? Theoretically, not so much. It was more suited for McLaren. But in this Formula One championship filled with constant surprises, Ferrari's return to the top was inevitable once the updates from the last few races started working. Charles Leclerc, for his part, showed that when he has a winning car, no one can stop him. And Carlos Sainz, with an equally masterful race, demonstrated the huge gap he will leave in Maranello, regardless of what Lewis Hamilton may do. With a Ferrari this fast and complete, there will be plenty of excitement in the remaining 5 races, without dwelling on missed opportunities, because progress always involves difficult moments. What matters is finding the right path and not losing it again, because the triumph at the 5.513-kilometer Circuit of the Americas in Austin, in Maranello's most important market, must be seen in the context of the 2025 Formula One season, when the goal must surely be the world title. Leaving Red Bull and McLaren behind by about 20 seconds is a show of strength that no one could have predicted beforehand. And in this, one cannot overlook the rebalancing of values that the FIA has decreed, bringing order to cars with variable ride heights, flexible wings, and asymmetric braking. Something has changed, perhaps not coincidentally. Now, the FIA must change the way it handles on-track battles between drivers, with ridiculous positions to be returned and millimeter-wide exits from white lines, penalized, all subjective matters that allowed Max Verstappen in third place to get the better of Lando Norris, taking more points for the championship. The Red Bull driver did a great job, but Lando Norris is still not ready for a world title fight. And to fix that, he will need to work more on his mindset than on his talent. Now let's take a detailed look at how things unfolded for the 2 Ferrari drivers in Austin. The burnouts to warm up the rear axle before lining up on the starting grid are 2 for both SF24S. All that's left is to wait for the green light. At the start, Leclerc's clutch release is remarkable. The Monegasque dives inside the first 2 and slips past them, taking advantage of their battle. His teammate, on the other hand, gets stuck but then manages to attack Norris and pass him. In the next 3 laps, Carlos closes in on Max, but the Dutchman is smart enough to shut the door. Then, on lap 4, Hamilton ends up in the gravel at turn 19, and race control calls for Bernd Maylander's services, safety car. During these laps under double yellow flags, the Ferrari drivers are informed that the amount of energy deployed on the tires was correct. It's worth noting that none of the top 10 drivers chose to pit, taking advantage of the race neutralization. Adami gives several tips on Car 55's radio channel. The speed to pass Max seems to be there. The Spaniard will undoubtedly try once the race restarts. On lap 6, it's back to racing. K2 on and maximum power to have significant hybrid support. Nothing happens at the restart. The top drivers hold their positions. Charles pushes hard because his goal is to pull away from Verstappen and create a safe margin. Carlos is trying to stick to the exhausts of Verstappen's RB20, but it seems there is an issue with the Ferrari's power unit. For this reason, the Spaniard fiddles with the steering wheel to try to change some settings. The issue seems related to traction in slow corners. His pace isn't bad, but he's undoubtedly losing some time. Meanwhile, Charles is pulling away, and by lap 10, he can boast a gap of over 3 seconds on the Red Bull. Bozzi congratulates the Monegasque as he's managing the race and the tires excellently, without too much effort. On Sainz's radio channel, there's no more mention of the problem, which seems to have subsided for now. 2 laps later comes the first tire phase update of the race. As for strategy, there's talk of Plan B for the Spaniard. For Charles, however, it's different according to Bozzie's instructions. Brian says that if the Monegasque maintains this advantage over Verstappen, Plan A can be chosen. Otherwise, Plan B would work too. Meanwhile, Charles's lead increases and exceeds 6 seconds. Watching the onboard of car 16, his handling looks very clean. The tires are in good shape, and everything is going smoothly. The Ferrari's pace on this compound is really good. Bozzie is suggesting many small things, including doing some lift and coast, given the lead. The tire degradation is as expected, and for Sainz, it's even lower. It remains to be seen if this supposed little problem for the Spaniard remains, and is why he hasn't attacked Max again. Carlos might even choose Plan C, which likely means extending the first stint as much as possible. On lap 20, Charles gets his second tire phase update, with instructions to avoid the bump at turn 4, which could be bothersome. He is also advised to lift and coast at turns 1, 11, and 12. On lap 22, Sainz makes his stop, aiming for an undercut on the Dutchman. Here come the hard tires. We'll see how Ferrari performs with these tires, which haven't been used yet during the race weekend. Adami calls the outlap critical, given the importance of pushing as hard as possible to complete the mission. As expected, Carlos sets the fastest lap of the race, but for now, Max doesn't react to the stop and loses a lot of time over the next 2 laps. Meanwhile, Charles is asked how many more laps he can do at this pace. Leclerc doesn't know exactly, but makes sure to watch out for traffic during the stop. There's no rush for the Monegasque to stop. The cars behind are slower. On lap 26, it's Verstappen's turn to switch to the hards. The Dutchman returns to the track 3 seconds behind the Spaniard, just as Leclerc is called to the pit lane. A slight adjustment is made to the front-end load to further balance the car. The Monegasque gets back on track behind the 2 McLarens, who haven't pitted yet by lap 27. Leclerc is asked to take care of the tires, which need to last until the end of the race. This means more lift and coast, avoiding the bump at turn 4, and generally not stressing the tires, especially in these first laps of the stint. The Woking car's strategy is very interesting, as by lap 30, they managed to maintain a good pace considering the life of their tires. Leclerc is catching up with Piastri, who still hasn't made his first stop. As soon as he gets to him, he passes him on the long, high-speed stretch without resistance from the Australian. Finally, the 2 McLarens change their tires. This means the 2 Ferraris are now leading the race. Bozzie repeatedly asks for lift and coast because the Monegasque is not listening and keeps pushing. Finally, Charles listens to Brian and obeys his race engineer's order. At this point, we're in the classic lull of the race, where most drivers are managing their tires, waiting for the final phase of the race. The handling of the Ferraris remains very good, even with the hard tires. We can confidently say that the fine-tuning before qualifying hit the mark. The 2 McLarens are pushing hard. Having delayed their stop, they are trying to make up ground. In fact, by lap 40, with 16 laps left until the checkered flag, both cars are right on the tail of the Red Bull RB20. Meanwhile, Leclerc attempts the fastest lap and snatches it by a tenth from the British driver of the Woking team. Moreover, he opens up on the radio, saying that constantly driving with the lift and coast mindset is difficult. Bozzie understands and lets him know that he can reduce it without any problem. Sainz also tries for the fastest lap and takes it, beating his teammate by less than a tenth. Norris is glued to Verstappen and will soon try to attack the 3-time F1 world champion. The longer the Dutchman holds him off, the better it will be for Carlos's Ferrari, which, despite having an 8-second lead over the 2, is running a set of hards that have 10 more laps on them compared to the McLarens. With 10 laps to go, everything is going great for Ferrari. The 2 SF24S lead the race, and we can calmly say that since they took command, no other car has been able to even slightly threaten them. Meanwhile, Verstappen holds on and doesn't give way to the 2 British cars, that nonetheless remain glued to the diffuser of car number 1. Without a doubt, few expected such a show of strength from Ferrari, which, with great merit, is bringing home an extraordinary and especially unexpected result. In the end, Norris succeeds in his attempt and passes Max with 3 laps to go. The final laps are a formality for the prancing horse, which secures a historic 1-2 finish on American soil, a truly incredible race in terms of pace and strategy. The Maranello team had no rivals in Austin and moves up in the constructors' standings to keep the World Championship dream alive. The excellent pace shown in the F1 sprint was no illusion. With a full fuel load, the recent update package is validated. Now, it's off to Mexico to try to win again. If before the summer break it seemed almost impossible, from now on, with a Ferrari like this, anything is possible.